Austin Chumlee Russell, a beloved personality from the reality show Pawn Stars, has officially been sentenced to prison. The atmosphere in the Las Vegas courtroom was heavy with tension as the final ruling was read aloud. In a moment that stunned everyone present, Chumlee collapsed under the weight of the verdict, overwhelmed by its impact. A hush fell over the room as the reality of the moment sank in, onlookers frozen in disbelief as they tried to process the dramatic turn of events. What led to this explosive conclusion? What could have sparked such a deeply emotional outburst in court, bringing one of reality television's most familiar faces to his knees? Here's a breakdown of the long and turbulent legal battle that ended in this shocking moment. Chumlee wasn't just comic relief on Pawn Stars, he was a fan favorite whose light-hearted humor and laid-back personality brought warmth to the History Channel's hit show. His presence was a key ingredient in its success, offering levity amidst the haggling over artifacts and historical oddities. One of his most memorable moments was when he splurged on a professional pinball machine, showcasing his love for fun and nostalgia. Over the years, he grew from a lovable goof into a significant television figure. His influence stretched beyond the show. Chumlee became instrumental in boosting the gold and silver pawn shop's fame and carved out a personal brand that reached far past Las Vegas. His journey from shop assistant to cultural icon was built on authenticity, charm, and an unshakable drive to evolve. While originally typecast as the show's comic relief, Chumlee worked hard to become an expert in niche collectibles, eventually becoming an essential part of the Pawn Stars cast. What made Chumlee truly special was his ability to resonate with audiences. He connected with fans on a genuine level, earning their loyalty and admiration. Beyond the show, he expanded his influence with sharp business moves. His ventures, including a successful line of branded merchandise and Chumlee's candy shop in downtown Las Vegas, demonstrated a strategic mind behind the easygoing persona. These ventures brought him considerable wealth, and that fortune would later play a crucial role in his legal defense. When serious accusations surfaced, it sent shockwaves through his fanbase, disrupting the image they had come to know and love. At the height of his popularity, Pawn Stars had become one of the highest-rated programs on cable, producing over 500 episodes while maintaining its educational, entertaining formula. Meanwhile, Chumlee's popularity extended far beyond the screen, with massive turnouts at public appearances and an undeniable presence on social media. Still, the man behind the fame struggled in silence. The glossy exterior masked private tensions that had been building for years. "I've lived two completely different lives," Chumlee would later admit. Fame, he explained, gave him a false sense of invincibility. Eager to embrace the perks of celebrity, he leaned into an extravagant lifestyle filled with luxury cars, high-end sneakers, fine jewelry, and mansion living. His social media posts, flaunting designer goods and lavish shopping sprees, attracted millions of views but stood in stark contrast to his humble beginnings. By the mid-2010s, the gap between his public image and private reality had grown wide. As Pawn Stars hit record-breaking viewership, with special episodes drawing over 7 million viewers, Chumlee's personal brand was also booming. Alongside his candy shop and exclusive merchandise line, he seemed unstoppable. But behind the scenes, the relentless pressure of fame was mounting. Chumlee would often reflect on this shift, from being an ordinary guy to someone instantly recognized in every crowd. The whirlwind of sudden fame, paired with internal struggles and growing scrutiny, began to take a toll. Eventually, it pushed him toward choices and circumstances that jeopardized everything he had built. "I couldn't even walk into Walmart without someone trying to take 500 photos, it drove me crazy," Chumlee admitted in a rare and emotionally raw interview. As the pressures of fame escalated, he found himself turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms. "I turned to things to help me deal," he confessed. "It nearly cost me everything." The contrast between the polished, light-hearted image portrayed on Pawn Stars and the growing chaos of his personal life became increasingly jarring by 2016. While the show maintained its warm tone and loyal following, the reality behind the scenes was unraveling. Though viewers still adored Chumlee's on-screen innocence and charm, his private life had begun taking dark, troubling turns. Years of reckless behavior, hidden from the public eye, finally came to the surface. The tipping point arrived in March 2016 when Las Vegas police raided his home in connection with a sexual assault investigation. "We executed a search warrant as part of an ongoing investigation," Officer Rodriguez announced at a press conference, a statement that quickly dominated headlines and sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. However, what authorities discovered during the raid extended far beyond the initial investigation. The search uncovered drugs, drug paraphernalia, and multiple firearms, charges unrelated to the original allegation but far more damaging. Within days, media outlets, including TMZ, reported the findings in detail, painting a stark contrast between the goofy, affable Chumlee fans knew and the troubling evidence now surfacing. The revelation stunned loyal viewers. One viral social media post summed up the sentiment: "This changes how we all see Chumlee." While fans processed the shocking news, prosecutors worked swiftly to build a criminal case. The charges included multiple felonies for possession of controlled substances and illegal firearms. If convicted on all counts, Chumlee faced up to 20 years in prison, a punishment that threatened not only his freedom but also his carefully curated public image. The fallout sent ripples through the entertainment industry, with experts warning that this might spell the end of one of reality television's most recognizable figures. Court records soon revealed the staggering scale of what was seized. Logs documented an array of firearms, including assault rifles, and various controlled substances. Although the original investigation into sexual assault did not result in charges due to insufficient evidence, the lifestyle Chumlee had built raised red flags about safety and legality. Prosecutors, pointing to the quantity and nature of the items found, recommended the harshest possible sentencing, intensifying public scrutiny. As Chumlee entered the courtroom for his initial hearings, photographers captured his somber expression. His porn star's colleagues were noticeably absent, leaving him to face the consequences alone. "Your Honor, this case involves serious violations of both controlled substance and firearms laws," the prosecutor began, laying out the charges with grave precision. As photographs of the weapons and drugs appeared on courtroom screens, Chumlee sat with his eyes fixed on the floor, occasionally shaking his head as damning evidence was shown. His defense attorney pushed back, aiming to dismantle the prosecution's implication of a drug distribution operation. "Was it your testimony that Mr. Russell was operating a drug distribution ring?" he asked the testifying officer. The officer confirmed the suspicion based on the volume of substances but admitted there were no scales, packaging materials, or distribution lists, common indicators of trafficking. The courtroom grew tenser as the focus shifted to Chumlee's extensive weapon collection. "Do you agree that Mr. Russell is a well-known collector of various items, including historical weapons?" his lawyer asked. The prosecution's firearms expert, Turley, responded curtly, "Collecting requires a license and proper storage." His answer underscored the legal complications surrounding Chumlee's possession of unregistered and unsecured firearms. A layer of emotional complexity hung over the courtroom as Chumlee sat visibly nervous, whispering anxiously to his lawyer. The judge reminded him firmly to remain silent unless called to the witness stand. Legal experts took the floor, explaining the gravity of the charges. Former attorney James Wilson emphasized that the combination of controlled substances and firearms typically results in severe sentencing. "The situation," he said, "was particularly dire." Chumlee's defense team attempted to shift the narrative, pointing to his clean criminal record and arguing that the intoxicating effects of fame had blurred his judgment. "My client was caught in a whirlwind of excess," his lawyer explained, "and it clouded his decision-making." They insisted that Chumlee never intended harm and that beneath the flashy headlines, he had long been a public figure of good character. Yet the trial was no longer just a legal matter, it had become a public reckoning. For fans, this was the possible downfall of a beloved television personality known for his humor, charm, and relatability. As the proceedings advanced, plea negotiations became the center of gravity. Behind closed doors, tense conversations unfolded as both legal teams weighed the consequences, not only for Chumlee's future but also for the porn star's franchise and the millions tied to his brand. With prison time looming, the focus extended beyond potential incarceration. A conviction could decimate his career, wreck his reputation, and strip away the empire he had built. On the final day of the trial, the courtroom filled with a mix of curiosity and loyalty. Fans packed the gallery, some holding signs of support, others wearing porn stars' merchandise. The air was thick with anticipation as Judge Michael Davidson entered to preside over the sentencing. Chumlee had agreed to a plea deal in the state's case against him, and the judge began meticulously reviewing the terms. The room was so silent that even the rustle of paperwork seemed loud. Standing with his hands trembling, Chumlee listened as the charges were read. He pleaded guilty to 1 count related to firearms and 1 count tied to a minor drug offense. As part of the deal, all remaining charges were dismissed. Chumlee's expression remained tight and pale as his attorneys exchanged wary glances. Despite the agreement, the judge made it clear that the offenses, particularly involving unregistered weapons and illegal substances, posed serious concerns regarding public safety. The ruling followed swiftly. Chumlee was sentenced to 3 years of probation, required to undergo counseling, and subjected to routine drug testing. All items seized during the raid would be permanently confiscated. But then came a startling condition that shook the courtroom: any violation of his probation, no matter how small, would result in an automatic 3-year prison sentence, imposed without the need for another hearing. "Mr. Russell," the judge said, locking eyes with him, "you are hereby sentenced to 3 years of probation with strict compliance supervision. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration for 3 years. Do you understand these terms?" For Chumlee, it was a moment of reckoning. He had come dangerously close to losing everything. Though spared from prison, for now, the conditions were severe. The realization hit hard. A wave of relief and dread swept over him simultaneously. His freedom now hung by a fragile thread of perfect behavior. His face turned ghostly pale, sweat beading across his forehead as the judge continued listing the full conditions, including 200 hours of mandatory community service. But Chumlee wasn't hearing any of it. The courtroom began to spin around him, and the distant hum of the judge's voice was overtaken by the roar of panic in his head. His attorney, sensing something was wrong, placed a firm hand on his arm to steady him, but it wasn't enough. Without warning, the reality TV star who once brought laughter into millions of homes collapsed forward. Gasps filled the courtroom. Security officers and medical personnel rushed to his side. His labored breathing echoed through the chamber as he lay unconscious, overwhelmed by a full-blown panic attack. Photographers captured the chaos as medical staff pushed through the crowd, clearing space. Someone fetched water. A medic called out orders, kneeling beside the unresponsive television star. The man once known for his carefree attitude, quick wit, and playful spirit was now a symbol of how swiftly fame, pressure, and personal turmoil can collide in front of a watching world. The dramatic courtroom collapse quickly became a global media event, dominating entertainment headlines within hours. Chumlee, long cherished as the lovable star of porn stars, was now the subject of a very different story. Paramedics were seen attending to him as he lay on the courtroom floor, the weight of the months-long legal ordeal finally taking a physical toll. Outside the courthouse, Rick Harrison, his longtime colleague and friend, was spotted making a brief visit. Fans gathered in hushed clusters, many stunned by the sudden and emotional turn of events. What had begun as a legal spectacle quickly shifted into a medical emergency, grabbing the full attention of entertainment media and social platforms. Hashtags like #ChumleeStrong and #PornStarFamily began trending as fans flooded social media with their concerns, updates, and messages of support. The verdict itself became secondary to the larger public response, a collective anxiety for a man whose rise and fall had played out in front of millions. 3 days later, Chumlee appeared in a video statement filmed from his home. Though still visibly shaken, he offered a familiar, if subdued, smile. "Facing the consequences of my action seems to have triggered my anxiety," he admitted, attempting light humor. "The doctor says I need to make better choices, I know he's right." His words, honest and vulnerable, seemed to mark a turning point not just in his legal journey, but in how he presented himself to the world. In a surprising move, the History Channel reportedly expressed support for Chumlee's continued involvement with porn stars once he recovered. While official statements were withheld, an anonymous source revealed that network executives viewed his ordeal as a chance to frame a redemption arc, one rooted not in scandal, but in growth. Chumlee's next public message reflected this shift. I let my reputation cloud my judgment. I made mistakes that could have cost me everything, he said, his tone unusually serious. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I promise my fans I won't waste it. The entertainment world buzzed with speculation. Could this be the start of a true comeback? Observers noted that Chumlee appeared focused, grounded, and dedicated to fulfilling court-ordered obligations. He was also turning renewed attention to his legitimate business ventures, taking cautious but deliberate steps toward rebuilding his reputation. Social media remained ablaze with supportive posts, as fans hoped for his eventual return to the show that had made him a household name. When asked directly whether he would return to television, neither Chumlee nor the network offered a clear timeline. But his response was telling. Right now, I'm focused on being healthy and making better decisions. The show has been my family for many years, and I hope to make them proud again. The legal battle, once seen as a career-ending disaster, had begun to feel more like a pivotal turning point. Interest in porn stars remained strong, and many fans viewed Chumlee's fall and possible rise as deeply relatable. For those who had followed his journey from an unknown employee at a Las Vegas pawn shop to a television icon, the courtroom drama wasn't just another tabloid story. It was a sobering look at how fame can distort judgment and how resilience can sometimes begin in the darkest of moments. His collapse in court, once seen as the breaking point, may ultimately mark the beginning of a more authentic chapter in Chumlee's public life. Behind the carefree persona was a man now reckoning with his past and looking for a path forward.